on fourth segment, contracts. You may have heard that verbal is just as valid as written, but is it? Our legal contributor, Craig Wisnom, joining us now with information that could save you a lot of time and money down the road. And isn't that what it all boils down to?
Absolutely. Avoiding paying the lawyers a lot of money later by doing it right to begin with.
A lot of hours, and they charge by the hour.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Verbal versus written.
Verbal is almost never a good idea.
Yeah.
Some contracts just plain are not valid if they are not in writing. But even for those that are, you have the difficulty of proving what was said and what the agreement was, and sometimes even if you can prove there was some agreement, the details about what you really agreed to aren't clear. I
mean, that in real life scenarios, say, you could have somebody come in to do some work in your home, and you could just have a conversation, and you feel like, oh, okay, we're on board, everything's good, but you're saying
absolutely, you always want it in writing. And think of it this way, it's not that you don't trust that other party, it's that it's better for both people to be very clear about what they're agreeing to and what the arrangements are. And as long as both people are honest, they'd much rather see that up front than have some disagreement. And it doesn't always have to be complicated.
That's what you were saying.
It just has to be clear. What are you going to do?
Like you could handwrite it?
You can handwrite it and sign it. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? How are you going to charge me? Is what we agreed to clear enough in what this little document says, and that's what's important.
Let's talk a little bit more about clear, because say what you intend to say, right? I mean, semantics and the words, the choice, how things are phrased, how detailed you get in what your intentions are is very important, is it not?
Absolutely, and there's a concept in the law for most contracts and things like wills. It's called the four corners doctrine. It says we only care what's in the four corners of this piece of paper. In other words, everybody should be able to pick it up and read it and say, okay, this means this.
Anybody who doesn't even know the situation should be able to pick it up.
And so even if you're with the other party and you think you both know what you want, the piece of paper that you sign agreeing to it has to reflect that, so that, you know, someone can pick it up and say, you're going to do this, you're going to pay this, it's going to be done then. No question.
What about scenarios where you say, and if it's not done, here's what the plan is?
And that's why
you include that?
Yes, that's why things sometimes get more complicated and people look at me as the lawyer and go, are you getting paid by the word? But you're trying to cover those things that could come up. But almost every official contract anyone ever signs that has fine print in it has a provision that says if it's not part of this written agreement, it's not part of our deal. And so it doesn't matter if a salesman told you something or anything like that, and if it's not written down. So if a salesman or a person on the other side tells you something, make sure it's written down. It's as simple as that. It will save you money and trouble in the long run.
Make sure that you read it and you understand that if something's left out, how that could burn you.
Yeah, and sometimes you see in real estate contracts when people do some sort of an addendum to the main contract, sometimes it's worth spending a little bit more time to write it out, so again, both sides look at it and say, that's what it means.
And really fast, when you do a will or a trust, how important is it to see someone who's qualified?
It's very important. Wills and trusts, you get into some of the same issues of, wait, what happens here, or what does this really mean? But it's also important, will has to be done a certain way, or it's just a piece of paper.
All right, Craig, thanks once again for coming on.
Thanks, Christy.
All right,